All right, I think we're good to go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming, everyone. Welcome to Western Wednesday. Our office is Exploratory Advising. My name is Deanna Welter. I am the Assistant Director in this office. I'll let my colleague introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rick Mullen. I'm the Director of Exploratory Advising. It's great having you all with us tonight. I hope you've got a nice sunny evening like we have here in Kalamazoo. Of course, it's always sunny in Kalamazoo. But yeah, thanks for being here. I hope we're going to have a nice half hour, 45 minutes with you all and answer a lot of your questions.
So we're going to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes or so kind of covering a brief presentation that goes over some of the basics of our office. You should have a Q&A and a chat function at the bottom of the presentation. So please feel free to send in questions at any time or send us some messages in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on those. So we will go ahead and get started here.
Okay, so yeah, we are called Exploratory Advising. Western actually has a pretty long history of working with students who we used to call undecided or undeclared. About 10 years ago, we kind of realized that those terms are a little bit outdated. And so that's when we switched to Exploratory Advising. No one wants to be thought of as on anything. And we thought exploring is a much more positive word. And about the same time, all around the country at colleges and universities, most of us have made that switch too. And so exploratory advising is a pretty common thing at universities and colleges around the country. About, as you can see here on the slide, about 20% of students who come into Western will come in without a declared major. That includes transfer students, and it includes some students in some of the colleges, particularly our College of Arts and Sciences has an undecided arts and sciences. So kind of that first point is that you are not alone. There are a lot of students in exactly the same boat as you. Students are just trying to figure out their major. And an interesting fact is that about 20%, sometimes a little bit more, of students who do come in with a major will change it within their first year. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But one of the things I think that concerns a lot of high school seniors is it seems like all my friends have a major and major decided and they know exactly what they're going to do. That's not the case. They may say that, but then they get to college and realize that that major isn't going to work for them. And that's fine and that's good and they should be their major. But one of the things that we will point out to you all is that sometimes you all are in a better position by starting out a little bit more general and taking the time to figure out the right major for you. One of the things that we really take a great deal of pride in, and because we know it's important to you, it's important to your parents, and so it's important to us, that you can graduate in 4 years. We've done a lot of data analysis along these lines, and in many cases, our students are graduating right on pace with their classmates who came in with majors. And as I just said, in some cases, been ahead of other students who may have switched. So there's every reason to believe that you're going to still be able to graduate in 4 years. And then one last thing here, sometimes students kind of really like working with us, and that's great. We're happy about that. We probably work a little bit differently than the advisors in the colleges do, and that's not a knock against them. They're great. We really love our colleagues in the college, but they have a different kind of approach to working with their advisees. In many cases, they're just handing their advisees a sheet of paper and go, here is your program. Those are the classes you're going to take. There's no discussing what class you think you'd like to take. That's what we do. We'll talk with you about what classes you think you'd like to take. And that maybe feels good to have someone ask you for your opinion and you to make that decision. So students like us. And so sometimes we're going to have to gently encourage you to go ahead and declare because we really can kind of see that you're ready, but you just may not feel you're ready. And so for the most part, and Deanna's going to get into this in more detail in just a little bit, we're going to be encouraging you to declare your major by fall of your sophomore year. As you can see here, last fall of 19, we had 346 students coming in through exploratory advising. That was about 15% of the freshman class. Our students had a pretty strong high school GPA, 3.23. That's not bad. So we got our fair share of honors college students, students who are strong students, but plenty of students everywhere else too. And so that's good. That's good. In many ways, our students aren't all that different from their classmates in the colleges. You can see there by comparison, the two biggest colleges here at Western have always been arts and sciences and business. Business is actually growing a little bit. They're probably going to catch arts and sciences at some point. But we're not that far behind at 17%. And then that puts us, in terms of the percentage of first-year students coming in at orientation, ahead of all the other colleges: engineering and applied sciences, and education, and health and human services, and fine arts, and aviation. So again, the point here being, there are a lot of students like you who are trying to figure out their major, and it's not a problem. It's, in fact, it's a positive thing to come to Western to explore.
So in exploratory advising, we have a couple of asks of our students. So we have our students register for a section of first year seminar called FYE 2100 in the fall semester. It's a 2-credit hour course that helps our new students learn more about the academic expectations of college. We learn a bit about major and career exploration. You will cover that in every single section of FYE 2100. We do offer some that are a little bit more targeted towards exploratory students. So there's what's called a classic section that all students across the university can take, no matter what their major is. And then we have some sections that are exploratory sections. So you'll get that major exploration and career exploration no matter which section you choose. But if you want to spend some more dedicated time really digging into how to explore majors and careers, you might consider taking the exploratory section of it. We also teach strategies for academic success. We're finding from students that they're not learning different study strategies in high school. I think in a lot of ways, studying can be built into your high school day for you by repeated testing and the assignments. In any given week, our students are in the classroom for about 15 hours a week. So there's a big difference between the amount of time you're in the classroom in college than when you are in high school. And so if you figure roughly 30 hours a week for high school, that extra time is study time. So how do you fill that extra 15 or so hours? How do you study for each of your classes? How you study for math might be different than how you study for a theater course. And so we cover some of the strategies that are designed to help students to be successful in the college classroom. We'll also cover available campus resources. We have a lot to offer around campus, whether it's social support or academic support. There's a lot of resources out there. One of the fun things about this class is it's typically a pretty small class size, about 20 to 25 students. And so with this, you're able to kind of build some good relationships and close relationships with people in your class. Typically, our first year experience classes, those 20 to 25 students, that's also your fall welcome group. Fall welcome is where our students come to campus a little bit early before the semester begins to get acquainted with campus and start to learn where things are and just kind of get settled in. And so it's nice to spend those couple of days before the semester really starts to get to know the people in your classes and start building some of those connections. We also require our students to meet with an advisor at least once every semester. This is mandatory for exploratory advising students, and a lot of that is because you have so many choices, which is great, but we want to make sure that those are great choices as far as academics go. So Western offers just shy of 150 majors, and that's a lot, and that can be overwhelming. So we want to make sure that you have the tools that you need to start narrowing those down and figuring out, okay, what's a good fit for me? And now that I have some ideas about what might be a good fit, what classes do I take? We have tons and tons of classes. And so we want to make sure that you're choosing the right classes as far as helping you to explore, but also the right classes that keeps you on the path on a 4-year timeline to graduation.
Okay, you may, and it's hard to believe, but the fact of the matter is, you are fascinating. You are fascinating to a lot of professionals who study you, and there are people who build their careers around studying you, future college student. We all study that when we were in grad school and preparing for jobs like this. And there's a lot of theory about what college students go through as they get to college and then go through their college careers. The big general theory is called college student development theory, and that you're developing as a human being and as a college student, all those things. One of the interesting aspects of it is called identity formation. I'm sure your parents could tell us all about it, but you as a late adolescent are going through identity formation. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to figure out your identity, and you've been living in your hometown more or less for 18 years now, and you're gonna this fall you're going away to college, and you're going to be a new you. Of course, you're the same you, you're you, but you're going to be a new you, and that's kind of one of the wonderful aspects about going away to college. It's a whole new world, and you're going to be meeting people from all over the state, all over the country, literally all over the world, and it's fascinating. And you're going to kind of try out new identities and figure that out. Part of that is figuring out what you want to do for a major. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's the most important part, but it's a part of your identity formation, figuring out who you are. And so, yeah, major is part of that. We understand that. We understand that's going to take some time sometimes for you to figure out what's important to you and what your values are, and what's the right fit for you in terms of your major. We understand pressure. We understand what you're kind of going through during this process. I would hope that none of your parents would ever do anything like this, but quite honestly, we've heard students that tell us their parents would say things like, well, you know, your Uncle Frank was a business major, and Uncle Frank makes a lot of money. He's got a great job. You should be a business major. Well, that's great for Uncle Frank, but what if I don't want to be a business major? What if I'm kind of thinking about anthropology? Anthropology? You can't do anything with anthropology. Well, guess what? You can. There are all sorts of fantastic things you can do in terms of careers with anthropology. So we want you to think about those other possibilities. You can generate alternatives if one field isn't working for you. Well, let's look at what you did like about that major, and then look and see if we can find that in another major. And so those are some of the things that we'll be talking about with you when we get here in the fall.
So, as we started to mention, researching majors is a big part of your responsibility as a college student. Western has approximately 150 majors that we offer. That's a pretty big list. And so, know that there are lots of people and lots of resources here to help you in kind of navigating that large number of potential majors. Some resources that we offer your academic advisors, that could be Rich or I if you start with exploratory advising. We also refer a lot of our students as they're starting to get more interested in some of the particular majors to set up informational meetings with the specialists, the advisors in those programs. They can be really great resources in kind of planning and seeing what are our recent graduates doing from that program, and what are some of the neat opportunities and internships that come along with those areas. We also refer students, we utilize our Western's website and the undergraduate catalog. That can be a great place to start doing some of the really detailed researching. I think there's an awful lot you can tell about a major just by the classes that are required for it. So spending some time with the catalog, searching for the majors that you're interested in, and seeing what is this major really made of, and do these topics sound interesting to me? We want the classes to excite you and to be something that you're hopefully passionate about working with in the future. We also collaborate with our Career and Student Employment Services office. They're just down the hall from our team, and so we partner with their career development specialists, but they also have a lot of really great resources that you can access right now off of their website. There's something on there called The Focus that is a career assessment tool. It's free. Anybody can access it. There's instructions on their website. They also have a couple of resources that I am particularly fond of. There's a resource called What Can I Do with This Major? So for people who are really interested in majors like communications, anthropology, history, well, what can you do with those degrees? There's tons of things that you can do with those degrees. There's also links out there to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, their Occupational Outlook Handbook, where you can search any career under the sun and find information for that career, as well as careers that are related to it. What kind of money do they make? What kind of education do you need? Do you need a bachelor's degree? Do you need a master's degree? What's the demand for that field? What is an average day on the job like? So lots of great resources at your fingertips on those websites. Rich mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we tell students plan to declare by the end of fall semester of your sophomore year. About for most students, that's about 3 semesters in. And having that ideal goal is really what protects that 4-year timeline to graduation. So that's been our aim for a long time for our students. You can see on this next slide here, you need 122 credits to graduate from Western. Typically, I'll use some rough numbers here that add up really easily. Majors are roughly about 40 credit hours. Minors are roughly about 20. And then our essential studies program is about another 40. So you add those 3 components up, those kind of core requirements of your degree, and you're at about 100 credit hours. So those extra credits are those additional credits are called electives. Um, and so we love those in exploratory because you'll kind of see in this slide here how we can utilize those. So our essential studies courses, those are courses that are designed to provide students with a broad foundation on which to build their college education. We're hearing more and more from employers of recent graduates that yes, that major content, that information is really important, but that really broad general education type of information is also extremely important. They want communication skills. They want critical thinking skills. And those are all things that you're going to build in the various areas of the essential studies program. So things like culture and writing and um, uh, sorry, I forgot not digital literacy. Rich, what am I thinking? There's a new name. Computational literacy. So math,
Oral digital
statistics.
communication.
There we go, that too. So lots of different areas to focus on that are designed to make you a well-rounded student that employers are really looking for. So you need to take 12, so there are 12 different sections of the Essential Studies program, and those need to add up to a minimum of 37. Most students will be right around that area. So our elective courses, they can be classes that are just taken for the fun of it. Let's say you've picked a major and a minor and you're done with your essential studies courses. Great. If you've always wanted to learn about Greek mythology or take a studio art class, you can do that. You need those credits to get you to that 122 credits to graduate. They can be classes that just help a student learn more about a topic of interest outside of a major or minor. So let's say you don't want to get a full minor in American Sign Language, but you want to take a couple of classes towards that just to kind of start to build some familiarity with it. Awesome. You can do that. You have room to do that. They can be classes that were taken to explore a possible major interest or possible minor. And so we see that a lot with exploratory. We'll have students who kind of test out a couple different majors all at one time in their first semester. And we love to see that. And you're not going to pick, let's say there's a student that's taking 3 different intro level classes to different majors. Probably not going to pick all 3 of those as majors. And so what happens to those other 2 that you don't choose? Well, great, they become electives. They're still helping you to move towards graduation. And then last on the list here, they can be classes that are taken towards a major that a student is no longer pursuing. So um, just as an example, sometimes we'll see a nursing student come in midway through fall and they'll say, you know what, I think I had the health piece of this right, but I don't think nursing is quite right. I don't want to do the blood thing. I can't do that. So we'll start going through some of the health major options that they have, things that are that are related to nursing. And usually the concern from that student is, did I just waste a whole semester? And the answer is absolutely not. That student is probably in 2, 3, maybe 4 essential studies courses that help them towards any major, and then 1 or 2 classes that will now become an elective if they don't end up counting towards their future major. So absolutely not. No wasted classes in that semester for that particular student.
Okay, one of the things that I think weighs somewhat heavily on a lot of students' minds as they're getting ready for going into the summer before they come to school is, what's my schedule going to look like? Completely, of course, you're going to wonder, kind of wondering what's next fall going to be? What are my classes? And so this will give you a little bit of an idea in a general sense what we look at as we help you put together your fall schedule. Typically, students will be taking 3 or 4 classes plus our first year seminar that Deanna was discussing, and that'll put you somewhere around 14 or 15 credits. By the way, you may have heard, or your parents may have heard, Western has a program called flat rate tuition. We're in, if you're taking 12, 13, 14, or 15 credits, anywhere between 12 and 15 credits, you're paying the exact same amount of tuition for the fall semester. And so it stands to reason that if you're taking 14 or 15, you're getting a better deal. Someone who's taking 12 and paying the same amount of money you are. Does that make sense? And two, as Deanna indicated, that 14 or 15 credits is what keeps you on pace. Take 15 a semester, that's 30 for the year, multiply that times 4, that gets you up to that 120 credits, 122 that it takes to graduate from Western. So that's what we're going to be shooting for, somewhere around 14 or 15 credits for you. You all, if you come to Western, you're going to be taking a math placement test. It's called the ALEX. Your math will be dependent. The math course you take will be dependent on your placement plus your interests, and that's our job to talk with you about your interests and help you make that decision. So we'll get to math in a minute. I'm not sure that other placements are really going to matter anymore. Math is the one big one. So start with English. Pretty much all of you are going to be taking English 1050. That's Foundations of Written Communication. That's our classic freshman level composition class. Every student at Western takes it. College of Engineering has their own writing course, but everybody else takes English 1050. That's 3 credits, and so you'll pretty much all be taking that. There may not be quite enough room for everybody for the fall, but if you take it in the spring, that's fine. But it is a pretty important thing to get started on building your college level writing skills. You're going to be writing in pretty much every class you take here at Western, and so learning what college level writing expectations are, what your professors are going to be thinking, that's a pretty important thing for you to get started on. So that's English 150. Yeah, math is a interesting thing. Which math you take is highly dependent upon what your major is. Math and major are highly correlated. In other words, some majors require a specific math class and others require another math class. So for our students who aren't quite sure what they want to major in many cases, we're going to ask you to wait. It may make sense for you to get a little bit clearer picture and where you want to go in terms of your major, and then start in with your math class perhaps in the spring semester or maybe even later. We'll talk about that. And again, it really depends on your majors. For example, students, one of the groups of students we'll often be working with are students who want to get into the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences, where math is very, very heavy, as you might imagine. But they're starting at a lower level math. Those students need to get into math right away. We want them started on math and moving as right with the first fall. Other majors, communications, school communication, majors, I don't want to say they don't care about math, but there's no specific math class required for communications major. So that may make some sense to wait if that's one of your interests. We'll talk with you about that. Then what that leaves are probably 1 or 2, maybe 3 new essential studies classes. Again, it depends. And which ones you take, it really depends on your interests. Again, that's our job to talk with you about that. But we hope what you're going to be doing is, in a sense, kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You'll be taking classes that will help you do a little bit of exploring and checking things out and seeing what you think about this major or that major, and fulfilling, as Deanna was saying, fulfilling some of the essential studies requirements. If you get in a class and really wasn't for you, well, you feel like, okay, at least I satisfied a graduation requirement, and that's a good thing. And then, yeah, 1 or 2 electives. Our first year seminar class is an elective. But gosh, there are so many others. If you want a marching band's an elective. You get a credit for that, 1 credit. But if you're out there hour after hour, blazing heat of August, and freezing cold of November, marching around, you get 1 credit. But it's going to be an A, so that's a good thing. If you sang in high school and like to continue to sing, you can join a chorus. You get a credit for that. There's plenty of really cool physical education classes. There's a wall climbing class that you can get a credit for. So those are all elective classes. So that's your schedule. Very likely English, maybe math, maybe not. A couple of 2 or 3 essential studies classes and 1 or 2 elective classes. And that'll get you somewhere around 14 or 15 credits.
All right, so that's a pretty good overview of our office and how we work with exploring students and maybe some things to expect in your first couple of semesters with us. If you have any questions, please send them in. We'll hang out here for a little while and take a few questions. All right, Rich, here's a question for you. How do we register at the online orientation?
Excellent question. The answer is yes. Uh, uh, in June, as we understand it, we're still working through all of the details, but yes, you're going to be um, asked to fill out a survey. They'll ask some of the questions, some of the things we've been discussing. You're going to have a time for an appointment with one of our advisors. It could be Diana or myself, or Deanna or myself, or one of our other advisors. And then, yeah, we're going to schedule time to meet and we'll talk and we'll be on the phone with you. And that will be when you literally register for your classes. And we'll not going to get off the phone until you're done. So we're going to make sure that you're happy with your schedule and it's classes that are appropriate for you.
Okay, Rich, here's another one. Does FY 2100 count towards electives?
Right. Yep, that's exactly what it is. It's one of the elective classes. It's 2 credits. And again, they're real credits. They count toward the 122 credits it takes to graduate. They count in your GPA. Most students do very well in that class. So a 2 credit hour A is not at all a bad thing to have in your GPA at the end of your first semester. And yeah, students really like the class. In December, when they do their evaluations, 98% of the students in our classes say it was a great experience. They're really glad they had it. They learned a lot. One of the things that I kind of take a little bit of pride in, I just really like hearing, students will say to me, oh my gosh, I go back and talk to my roommate and she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything about how to do any of these things. But those are all the things that we cover in our FY 2100 class and the things you need to know to be a successful student class.
So, Rich, we're going to go back a little bit. So, orientation, registering for orientation, that will be a one-on-one session then, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
What we're probably going to be doing is sending you some materials in the form of maybe a video or a PowerPoint that you'll get ahead of time that'll allow you to prepare a little bit. But then, yeah, you're going to be either WebEx, something like this, or over the phone, one-to-one with an advisor.
Will there be, what other to-dos? How do you prepare for orientation? What will we be sending and what should they be doing prior to orientation?
Yeah, we will be sending you at least a couple things. We'll be sending you a nice, supportive, encouraging email, but included in that will be at least a couple things. One, which is what we call our open class list. So it will list all the classes in WU Essential Studies plus electives, and they're classes that are appropriate for you, and they're open. So you can look at that list and you can look at all the different categories and pick out some of the classes that look interesting to you. Along with that, that's kind of the condensed version of all of the Essential Studies classes and electives. Along with that, though, we'll send a much bigger document which shows course descriptions for each of those classes. So you go, interpersonal communication, that sounds like an interesting class. What's that about? And you go in and look at the course description. So you'll have a pretty good idea, at least in a general sense, about the basic classes that we're most likely to recommend for you. So yeah, what we're going to ask is that you kind of do take a look at those course descriptions, jot down 5 or 6 or 7 classes that look interesting to you. When you sit down with your advisor, you're going to discuss them, and we'll talk about them and see if we think that's a good match for you, and if we can get you registered for it.
So along with that, for students that are joining us in June for orientation, keep your eyes on your email. We'll be sending a survey. Rich, I'm not sure if you mentioned this part, but asking just a lot of questions about you, about your interests. Did you take any AP, IB classes? And so completing that really helps give us a sense of what your academic interest, helps us to start brainstorming some potential classes that you just might want to consider, things that we'll want to run by you and talk to you about in your individual advising appointment. All right, Rich, when do you have to be done with the ALEKS placement test?
Good question. think they're encouraging everybody to get into it as soon as possible, but I know that if you've started it on it, you took the preliminary test and then found out where your strengths and weaknesses lie. Now you're probably doing some studying, and maybe you're hoping to retake the test with the hope of moving your score up higher. Good, good question, Dan. I mean, do you have any sense of that?
So I would say you probably want to be done with it at least a couple days prior to your registration appointment. So it takes some time for the system to update and so that we can actually see your score. So I would say no later than 2 days before your orientation, but you can do it earlier than that if you're comfortable doing so. But no later than 2 days before we meet for your registration to start getting you into classes. Let's see here. Another question about the math placement test. Will I get the score at orientation so I know what math class I can take? And so as a part of completing the ALEX, you should get a real-time answer when you're done with that score. When you're done with that test, it will give you a score. Our math placement test website has the breakdowns of all the different scores and what your score translates to as far as a class, whether that's pre-calc, algebra 2, which classes that you're eligible for.
Again, with the new WMU Essential Studies program, and I think we mentioned it, but this is the first year this is going to be going into effect. You're the first class that's going to be WMU Essential Studies students. It's exciting, and but we're just learning. But one of the interesting things about it in terms of math, or called quantitative literacy, there are some classes that you can take, and again, it depends on your major, but there are some classes you can take that are not math. Economics could be used. There's a philosophy class, a critical thinking class, and there's statistics for sure that can be used to fulfill that area. So again, those are the things that we know, and we'll be talking about them with you. And again, in some cases, for some of you, even though we have a solid placement for you, it may make sense for you to wait on math and not take any math this fall, and that's absolutely fine.
Okay, so another question, how do I access the ALEX test, the ALEX math placement test? So if you go into GoWMU under the kind of the main screen that you log into, it's called the student home. There's a link, kind of a main banner that says all links. If you hit the arrow next to that, it'll drop down a bunch of links. And one of those links is the ALEX math placement test, ALEX, ALEKS. So that should have your link to it, instructions, everything that you need to get started. So I will put that last slide up there for you all one more time in case you want to take a screenshot of it or copy down our information. You have where we're located on campus, our office phone number, our email, as well as our website. Our website has a lot of the resources that I mentioned in the presentation. So if you're curious about digging into some of those career links or the catalog, or just kind of reaching out to one of us to have a conversation about what majors might be right for you, please feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call. We'd be happy to chat more about how to do some more major exploration in the meantime.
Thank you all. It was great talking with you.